Hi, welcome. This is week 8 for our 10-week series, and today we're going to be working a little bit more with the discs than we were the first time, and we'll be adding in some other new moves to help keep it spicy and keep it fun. So always remember, you can always go back to the previous weeks if you feel like it's a little bit too much, and Lainey will be showing you variations along the way. Have fun, and let's begin. So Lainey's going to start out with a warm-up for us today, and she's going to start out with a balancing warrior 3 tilt. So standing with your feet parallel in mountain pose, pelvic neutral, spinal rib cage neutral, contract the pelvic floor. Now a nice big breath in. Exhale, start to tip your torso forward, bringing the opposing leg up and back. Only going as far as you can keep the hips square and the body in one long line. Then slowly inhale, coming back up, nice and steady. Let's do this 2 more times. So exhale, really engage the inner thighs as you tip forward. Feeling the glute on the floating leg help lift the back leg. And then slowly inhale, coming back up. And then one more time. Try not to grip with the base toes, but really feeling rooted through the base leg, through the base foot. And then you're going to repeat the same thing on the opposite side. Only going as far as you can keep your body reaching and extending, the hips squaring the best you possibly can. It's not easy. As you tip forward, really roll the outside of the floating leg's hip down so the knee and toes are pointing towards the floor. Last time. Breathing. Great job. All right, we'll work with flexion and extension using chair pose this morning. So as you exhale, sitting back into your hips and heels, reaching the arms up, and then on an inhale, letting your hips glide forward, moving into a nice crescent extension. Exhale, pelvic floor engages, keep the front ribs down, and then pressing up through the soles of the feet. If you need to, slight bend in the knees. Beautiful. Let's do 2 more. So exhaling, soft shoulders. Nice. And again, letting the hips glide forward, really open up the hip flexors. Great job. And our last warm-up for this morning is our lateral stretch. So we'll start with the feet in a little bit wider than neutral, a little A-frame. Ball at one wrist. Take the opposite arm up to shoulder height. And then kicking the hip out with a bent elbow. Bring yourself back up. Beautiful. Inhale, hip props out, really breathe into your top side lung. Exhaling, pulling up. Nice job. 3 more for 5. Really focus on keeping your pelvis facing forward so you keep a true stretch through the front hip flexors. Nice. Soft neck and shoulder. And after you've done 5 on one side, you're going to repeat 5 on the opposite side. Again, relaxing the bottom shoulder, rolling down the ball, and then coming back up, really feeling the oblique of the top side body float you back up with no pressure down through your pelvic floor. So really keeping the pelvic floor active, not tense, but supportive. Knowing that contracting and working these tiny little muscles in our body is a work in progress, we want to first make sure that we feel them and think about them and start to connect our brain and body together. Great job. All right, so now we're going to be grabbing a disc. And as of last week, remember, if you don't have a disc at home, you can always use a paper plate if you're on a carpet floor. And if you're on a hardwood floor, a small dish rag or towel works really great as well. Starting in neutral pelvis, really making sure there's no dumping of the front hip bones forward. I want you to pay very close attention to that. We're only going as far back as our pelvis will allow our leg. On the inhalation, slide the leg back that has the disc, keeping your hips squared forward. And then exhale, engage your inner thighs, come straight up towards the sky as you exhale. Great job. 4 more on this side. So inhaling, and then exhaling, feel the base leg push straight down into the floor as you rise back up, rather than you coming forward with your body weight. So feeling a nice release through the hip flexor. This would be a great warm-up to do pre-walk or pre-run to really train and teach your leg to have good extension on your stride. So after you've done 5 on one side, you're just going to switch. Place the disc under the ball of the foot. Plant your base leg, toes and knee forward, and then sliding that leg back. Inhaling, breathe into your lungs. Exhale, contract the pelvic floor, almost like it's surging up through the crown of the head. So we'll do 4 here. Really feeling as though the disc is taking your leg and your body back rather than your body forward. Nice work. All right, we're going to transition down to the mat. So Lainey's going to move her little mini mat a little forward and come down into a tabletop position, placing the ball under one knee. So remember back when we did that balancing tabletop, we had the ball under one knee, wrists under the shoulders, folds of the elbows forward, and if you need to, recheck the bottom of the rib cage that it's drawn up and in towards your torso, so keeping that front core nice and contracted. Slowly now sneak the free leg straight back so that the toes are barely on the floor. Keeping your hips squared towards the mat. Big breath in. And now open your arm, the same arm as the ball side, out to a T. Keeping your chest squared towards the floor. We'll take 5 breaths here. And now at any one point, you can float your back leg up a few inches up off the mat. Being sure not to roll the hip open. So really trying to almost lift through the inside pant seam of your leg. Inhaling through the nose, press down through the base arm. Exhaling through the nose, keeping the rib cage nice and strong, coming down slowly. Great job, Lainey. And then we're going to switch to the opposite side. So rolling the ball over towards the opposite knee. You can keep those toes kickstanded so that the knee doesn't float away on you. Pressing down through all 10 knuckles and slowly sliding the leg back. And then with minimal shift, extending the opposing arm. So I want you to imagine as though you're barely moving, and now 5 breaths at any one point. With a flexed foot, you can extend the back leg up off the floor. Great job. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the nose. Really, again, ignite the pelvic core. Pelvic floor plus deep core muscles. Steady. And then after these 5 breaths, slowly coming down with Lainey, bringing your limbs to the floor. Great job. All right, so we're going to transition to using the discs again. So now the ball is going to go between the knees, and Lainey and you are going to place the ball between the knees. Did I just say the ball under the feet? Let's put a disc under the feet too. Sorry about that, guys. So we're going to place a disc under the feet. And now similar, you can just use one. That'll be good, Lainey. Awesome. So using a disc under the feet, I want you to imagine keeping the tabletop shape. And the legs are just going to slide out from underneath you. Imagine having a full set of all of your table fixings on your back. And so exhaling when you're pulling the legs in. Keep your back and hips nice and steady, right back into table. Inhale, prepare. And then exhale, pressing back out slowly, sneaking your way back. Great job. And again, exhale, pulling in, engage on the green ball. Inhale, hold. And then exhale, slowly sliding back. Nice job. Let's try 3 more. So we're going to hold on the inhales and slide on the exhales. And after your 5th and final one, you can sit back onto your heels, give yourself a good little stretch, knowing at any one point you can take a break and cut down the reps. Excellent. So next we're going to be moving into a forearm planking. So the ball is going to go between the legs. And we're going to start with a foot push. So I'm actually going to have you come back into a forearm plank when you're ready. Excellent. So making sure again that the pelvis is in neutral. We're using the ball to engage the inner thighs, and she's pressing down through her forearms. Now, if she really wanted to challenge herself, she's going to turn her palms to face in instead of having her palms facing the floor. Excellent. So I'm going to take one disc under each of her feet, and she's going to work a little bit with an alternating foot push. So she's going to push one foot out and then the opposite. So it's almost like she's running in place. For many of us, we're in shoes far too much. This is great footwork. Keeping the ball between the thighs is going to help her stay nice and strong through the rest of the upper body. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the nose, extending and flexing through the feet, through the ankles, through the toes is going to really ignite that core strength right back up into the body. So we're going to count down from 10. Keep going. 9, 8, 7. You're doing great. 6, 5, 4, 3. Keep steady. 2, and 1. Nice job. You can drop to your knees, sit back onto your heels, give yourself a break. We have 2 more moves in forearm plank still. Awesome. So coming back into forearm plank, this time we won't need any discs, and we're going to work with a little bit of a foot lift. So now I want you to imagine keeping your ankles parallel, and we're going to release one set of toes out and have them hover over the floor. So whenever you're ready, you can shift, let's say, over to the left leg and uncurl the right toes. Keeping the legs engaged, you could do this on the opposite knee, so you don't have to be floating. We're going to try to keep 5 breaths and keep our hips parallel and level with the floor. So Lainey's going to go 5 breaths. Keep that leg a little bit lower. Yep, there you go. Nice. So again, imagine magnets on the insides of your legs. And then setting that foot down, notice minimal transition so that when you lift the opposite toes now, 5 breaths, I want you to try to keep as steady and stable in your body as you possibly can. This is not an easy movement. Again, small and steady. Awesome. We're going to try to bring that leg down. Perfect. You can roll those toes onto the floor. Again, sit back, give yourself a little break. Remember way back from when we were working on our planks in the very beginning, and I was talking about cutting your plank into thirds. Legs are activated, that's a third. Pelvic core is activated, that's a third. And then pressing down through the entire line of your forearm is going to be the other third. That way we don't feel all the stress and tension in our shoulders and neck or in our lower back. If you still are noticing that, come down to the knees and work with the modifications. All right, our last one is going to be working with a leg slide. So we're going to take the ball out from between the thighs, and I'm going to give Lainey a disc here. So now variation would be you being in a modified forearm plank. So basically stepping back into full plank and then dropping down to the knee that's not going to be used. So then that way you have support and you're not hanging in your lower back. Otherwise you're going to stay up off of the knee. Lainey's going to work from there today. Keeping a nice broad back without hunching, we're going to slide the leg out to the side 10 times. So inhaling and then exhaling, zipping the legs together. Inhaling and exhaling. Lainey's doing a great job of keeping her pelvis as steady as possible. We want to minimize kind of a wonky rotation. You're only going to be able to move as far as your hips will let you. So we're doing 10 times on one side. You can stay with Lainey here, and I'll call out switch so that you won't be confused. And if you need to, simply drop the opposite knee, and you can continue, or if you need a little break, if you need to cut down the reps, know that you always have those options. All right, nice job. Lainey's going to get a little stretch in real quick here, and then we're going to move to the opposite side. So stepping back, let's have you move a little forward, Lainey, here. Slowly slide it. Awesome. So now coming into forearm plank, level hips. All right, here we go with the opposite leg. So inhale, sliding out, exhaling. The goal is not for her to get her leg all the way up towards me or towards her shoulder. The goal is to keep your hips level and her core ignited. So again, we're going for 10. You can just stay with Lainey here. Inhale, sliding out. Nice job. Exhale, coming in. Imagine that exhale, that pelvic core power coming up through the body. Nice job. She's doing a great job of staying nice and neutral in her shoulders. And nice and strong and steady in her body. Nice. Take a seat back. Take a breath. Great work. Really try to focus breathing into your back body. Excellent. Great job. All right, so coming up and now coming back here into a tabletop position. So Lainey's going to come to her hands and to her knees. And just do maybe 2 rounds of a cat-cow just to free the spine. Great. So coming into a seated position, I'll have Lainey turn around. She'll face the opposite direction. And you will need a disc. So placing one ball behind the back, and let's say your right heel on the disc. We're going to keep that foot flexed to keep it a little bit active, and maybe try to do the same thing similar with the opposite, or at least keep the foot grounded. First, we're going to start out working with a roll back. We're going to add a single leg, and then eventually we're going to come up and do that double leg. So they're going to happen in combination. It's almost like opening and closing a book. If you feel as though that's too much, if I remove the disc, I'm going to have Lainey extend both of her legs out, and she can activate her legs onto the floor or put a ball between them and do the same thing, and just work with the roll back again, or the extension with her torso without involving any of her legs. Or she could also go back to the bent knee option. So there's lots of options to choose from. All right, so disc goes under her right heel. Ball is wedged behind her back. She's sitting tall on her sit bones. Exhale, pelvic floor engages. Just add a little tilt to start. And then inhale, let's just come back 45 degrees. Nice, just get set up. Perfect. Now just start the leg. So inhale, slide the leg out. Now as you exhale, bring your torso up and your leg in. Perfect. Inhale, open it. And exhale, close it. Good, so 8 more. Now as Lainey works with you, I really want you to try to focus on making sure that you are not arcing in your lower back every time you extend back. Really try to pay attention that you're keeping nice, strong core. I call it rectus pufus. Belly muscles do not pop out. If you're feeling hip flexor tension, just go with the torso and don't move the leg. If you're still noticing hip flexor tension, ever slightly internally rotate the mobile leg, and that will help the hip flexor calm itself down. For many of us, we're not used to using the core effectively, and we're used to using the hip flexors. Excellent. So after those 10 on one side, you're almost done here. You're looking great. Perfect. You're going to flip over and do the same thing with the opposite foot. So again, Lainey's going to be working here. You also have an option to work with genie-style arms. So this time, Lainey will work with genie-style arms. Perfect. And again, let's just start the torso, little pelvic tilt. Inhale, bring the torso back. Extend the leg out. Now we'll work in combination. Exhaling and inhaling. Excellent. So you're noticing that Lainey doesn't have to go that far back, especially if she goes too far back and she ends up with that rectus pufus or a lot of lower back pain. Only go as far as your body allows you to. Perfect. Inhaling, just stay with Lainey. Exhaling. If you need to cut down the reps, do 5, do 7. Do what your body allows you to do effectively. So inhale, extending out, and exhaling. I can tell she's quivering. She's working her deep core muscles for sure. Excellent. Perfect. You're almost there. Keep with your breath. And then after your last one, just rest over your legs, take a moment and breathe. We're going to prepare for now the oblique twist. So if you remember back from last week, we worked with this oblique twist and we added the disc in. As always, you can omit the disc and you can just work with the body as is. The challenge here working with a disc is you really have to know your pelvis and have good body awareness that your hips aren't torquing when you're twisting your torso. So the tighter the back muscles, the more challenging this variation is going to be. And for many of us, we have to learn to kind of pull back. So Lainey's going to twist towards you for the first one. So just as a rule of thumb, whichever side you turn towards, the opposite leg moves. So Lainey has her right foot on the disc and is going to be twisting to the left. So bringing your arms up in front, relaxing the shoulders down. Great job. So now here, let's just slide the leg out, get set up, pull the elbow out. Excellent. And then exhaling back to center. Perfect. Let's do 5. Inhaling, breathe into your lungs. Exhaling, feel the waistline wrap itself together. Inhaling, steady on your green ball. There should be no moving side to side. Inhaling, breathe wide. Exhale, nice work. Inhale, steady on the green ball. Exhale. And then after those 5, I'm going to have you switch right away to the opposite side. If you need a break in between, pause us and join us when you're ready. So inhaling, notice how she's really rotating her torso. Exhaling. Inhaling, now Lainey, freeze for a second. And she's really focusing on trying to twist with her rib cage, not with her pelvis. Exhaling, back to center. Nice work. Inhaling, great. Turn your head, turn your eyes. Perfect. And again. And exhale, steady on the green ball. Nice. All right, nice job. Take a breath. Think about which side was a little bit weaker, a little bit more challenging. The obliques are a must for 2-to-1 ratio. So at this point in our practice, we're going to start introducing that concept again. All right, so Lainey, which side are you choosing? Left. Left. All right, so Lainey's going to the left. Here we go. Set yourself up. Inhale. Watch that you're not arcing on the ball. Exhaling. We're going for 5, but I will be happy with 1, 2, 3, 5. I want you only to move at which you feel effective. Nice. Really steady with your hips and pelvis. This is a great way to help mobilize the spine as well as we challenge all those little muscles that are kind of keeping us caught in a sense. Nice job. All right, so now we're going to work with a double leg push. And using one disc usually makes more sense than using 2 because you don't have to worry about fumbling around with them. So both feet will be flexed on the disc. Green ball is behind the back. As always, you can keep the legs steady and just work the torso, or you can keep the torso steady and just work the legs. So I want you to be playful but yet mindful and effective. So let's set yourself up again, sitting tall. Exhale, pelvic tilt. Inhale, just the torso back. I'll have Lainey go genie style arms. Perfect. And now legs extend out. Try to keep almost an internal rotation, and if it's more helpful, bring a ball. Exhale, close it together. Nice. Inhale. And exhale, pull tall rather than forward. Exhale. Good. Inhale. And exhale. As you ride it back, we're going for 10. I want you to think about keeping that kiss of your sacrum into the green ball. So then that way, again, we're not getting you to bulge out in that front rectus area. If that happens, you're going too far. Your muscles cannot sustain that which you're trying to have them do. Awesome. So inhaling, moving back, soft shoulders and neck. Exhaling. If this becomes too much, go back to the single leg, go back to just keeping the legs steady and stable. I want you to be effective. I cannot stress that enough. Nice. Perfect. Let's just do a little bound angle here. Release the inner hips. Take a couple breaths here. All right, so we're going to move into a tabletop position, laying on our back now. So Lainey's going to take us through this series. So placing the ball underneath the sacrum, and then slowly and steadily bringing your legs up to a tabletop position. Nice job. Just check in with stability. Remember your arm options. Lainey, you want to show us those arm options? Knife edge, perfect. Fingertips to the sky, or down at your sides, palms preferably face in. We're going to start it with that rocking. So remember that was a side-to-side tip. Inhale, tipping off to the right. Exhale, deep engagement back to center. And then inhale, tipping off to the left. Exhale, deep engagement back to center. Nice. Let's try 5 times on each side, alternating. Now remember the key with this motion is that you try not to let your hips go too far, or you'll get what I call bunny tail syndrome. All of a sudden the booty will kind of kick out to the side. It's usually a sign that you've gone too far. Keeping the core strong, that idea of bracing in the deep belly. Nice. So inhale, tipping, and then exhale, coming back to center. And then after those 5 times on each side, you're going to go back to your weaker side and do an additional 5 simultaneously. So inhale, tipping, exhale to center. Mentally bring yourself into your core. Lainey, you're doing a great job. What I find with core work is that the small micro movements tend to be more challenging but way more effective than the large obvious ones, because we're asking parts of our body to move that generally don't. After those 5, we're going to go right into circles. So if you remember from last week, one foot goes down and the other leg comes up. Now you can work with a bent knee, you can work with a knee at 45 degrees, or you can work with a fully extended leg. Yeah, perfect. You can also work with that bottom leg slid out just like Lainey demonstrated before. And we're going to go 5 one way and 5 the other way. So inhale, circling out, and exhale right up through center. Keep the pelvis really steady. Inhale, circling out. Exhale, bringing it right up through center. So 5 one direction and then 5 the other. I always like to think about the exhale as kind of that really kind of bringing it up from the rear at the end. That last little whip. So with control, feeling super strong on that exhale. The breath holds a lot of power when it comes to our core, whether we're inhaling or exhaling. And what you'll probably notice is that one hip and one oblique definitely are weaker, so really trying to tune into that here. So 5 times one way and then 5 times the other way. Nice. Stay with it. Opposite side, nice and steady coming up, coming in and out of the movement or part of the movement. Here we go. Inhale out. There we go. Exhale, center. Inhale out. Exhale, center. 3 more. Inhale out. Exhale, center. Inhale out. Exhale, center. Great. And then we're going to reverse it. So 5 times going from the midline to the outside. And depending on the depth of your hip socket, will kind of determine the large or the width of your circle, but also your core stability. After your 5 in and out, you're going to go back to your weaker side. Which side needs a little bit extra attention? Which side do I need a little bit more work on? So 5 and 5. And Lainey's staying on this side, so she's going to continue. Stay with your breath and just take your time. 5 circles in and then 5 circles out. And after your 5 2-to-1 ratio, bring the foot down, take a moment, breathe. You're doing a great job. Excellent. All right, so give yourself a little stretch. Use that ball to your advantage. Anytime your hips are lifted, your hip flexors are going to get more exposure on that stretch. And then bringing yourself back. Now the ball is not a flat surface, so if you need to adjust it, feel free to do that. So now we're going to go back to toe touches, that dropping of the foot one at a time. But before we move into the movement, Lainey can get set up if you'd like to. We're going to add in a little bit of a head lift. So listen carefully. We'll do 5 on each side. And so as we drop the foot, and then exhaling, bringing that foot back up again, you can keep the head down, or Lainey's going to bring her hands back behind the head, hand over hand, and she's going to add a little flexion in. Either holding stagnant, or every time a foot lifts, she can also lift her torso. So there's lots of combinations here. Perfect. So here she's doing the lift and lower. And why don't you do that this whole sequence on this side, Lainey? So every time she lifts, she's trying to really pay attention that her hands are not pulling her head, but she's lifting from the bottom of the rib cage, almost like she's trying to get her bra strap off the floor or the bottom of her shoulder blades off the floor. So just yanking the head up off the floor, it does not include that it's going to be successful for your deep core. So if that's the case, keep the head down. I promise you, you'll gain more ground faster. So 5 on one side. And then Lainey's going to drop it down and switch and do the opposite side. This time Lainey's going to keep her head lifted the entire time. So now she's going to have more of a stagnant lift. Noticing the rib cage is down in front. And every time you exhale, the pelvic floor is attached to the bottom of that moving heel. So you get this constant engagement. Nice. So 5 times and then dropping the head down after the 5th. Pause. And then we're going to go back and do 2-to-1 ratio. But when you do 2-to-1 ratio this time, choose a variation that will be most appropriate. Remember, this is the second time through. So whenever you're ready, lowering the foot on the inhale, with or without the head lifted, and then exhaling, feel as though there's a fishing reel inside your core, reeling up that leg. And if there's hip flexor tension or pain, are you dropping the leg too far? or is also maybe that hip flexor a little bit too involved. So drop the head back and maybe also slightly internally rotate that moving leg. After your 5 or your 3 in your 2-to-1 ratio, lower the head down first and then lower the legs down second. We'll give yourself a little mini stretch and break. Then we're going to move into double leg. Nice job. And same thing with double leg stretch or double leg drop. You have the option to keep the head lifted, which is much more challenging, or you can keep the head down, arms at your sides. You can also take the arms up off the floor and bring the fingertips towards the ceiling. So you have those other arm variations as well. I like options. All right, so get yourself set up first, feet flexed preferably, engage them together. And then if you're using that flexion, lift the head and shoulders. If not, you're going to keep the head down. Excellent. And so inhaling, dropping only as far as your lower back and your deep core can sustain you. Lainey's rocking this here right now. So we'll go for 5. As you exhale and lift, make sure the heavy load of the legs is not forcing the lower back into the floor. And Lainey's doing a great job. So we're going to work for 5. And even after one head lift, if you feel like, whew, that was really challenging, just drop the head back. No worries. Excellent. Slowly legs drop down. Great work. All right, give yourself a good little stretch. Open up the body. Great. And now stay here for a second. Just let the hips drop side to side. Give a good hip flexor stretch. One of my favorite hip flexor stretches. And then drop over to the opposite side. Really feel that nice pull. Nice deep breathing. Great. And then bending the knees. Lift the hips, remove the ball, and then roll over onto your side to prepare for plank again. So we'll start out with a double knee pull. I'm going to have Lainey move forward with her mat again. And so the ball will go between the thighs. And let's have just one disc for the feet this time. Again, less confusing if we can. Always just eliminate, and less is more here. So as always, if you feel as though being on your wrist is too challenging, you can always come to your forearms, but just know the movement's going to be much smaller. But I'm going to have Lainey stay on her palms. Folds of the elbows forward, rib cage is drawn up and in, pelvis is in neutral. This first one is going to be the double knee pull. Really challenging, but very effective. So starting in a tabletop, inhale, extending the legs out, and then exhaling, pulling the knees up under the body. Almost, yeah, you got it. And then inhaling, sliding out. Exhaling, she could also just pull into a tabletop. So she has that option as well. Keep the upper body absolutely steady. What will happen for many people is that they want to hike the hips up to get the legs under, and that's not really using your core. So I really want you to keep the upper body nice, steady, and stable. Nice. Let's go 2 more, Lainey. So exhale, pulling the knees in. You can smile. You're working just right. And then inhale, extending out. Steady, steady, steady. Great. And then after your last one, bringing it back in to complete. And dropping the knees to the floor. Excellent. So now for this one, you're actually going to need 2 discs and no ball. So with the mountain climber, this is always my tribute to 4th grade gym class. And so if Lainey will be so kind to demonstrate the 4th grade way to do the mountain climbers, kind of this hips up in the air, legs are a mess, which often happens, and we're confusing speed. That was great. Confusing speed with effectiveness. I want you to think about sneaking your legs underneath you. Lainey's going to demo here. And then having a nice simultaneous switch. So as she moves, she's trying to keep her hips floating, her deep core contracting, and her legs coming under her. Great job, Lainey. So to start, we're going to come, when you're ready, into a tabletop and then back into a plank. I'd rather have you move much slower than move too fast. So whenever you're ready, exhaling, bringing the leg in, and then switching to the opposite side as well. I always encourage my students to just find an effective, consistent pace. One that you could set a water glass on your hips. So keep the hips floating and keep them high. Inhale through the nose and exhale. So we're going to try for 30 seconds. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling. Again, think about where the strength is coming from. Let's count down from 5. Let's speed it up here. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Nice job. Sit back onto the heels. Give yourself a nice little stretch. If you need to, roll out the wrists. And then slowly bring yourself up and flip over onto your back for some bridging. So we will need for our bridging this time a disc and also your ball. So placing the ball between the knees and then finding pelvic neutral, relaxing the front rib cage down, really important. We're going to start here with a nice little slide. So inhaling, exhale, lift up into a micro bridge. Remember, too high is too high. And we're going to start out with a double heel slide. So sliding the disc out and then pulling the disc back in. Nice. Let's just try 5. Sliding it out, really relax the neck and shoulders, and slowly bringing it back in. Sliding it out. Maybe you're only going to go 3 inches, and that's fine. And then bringing it back in. Maybe you're only going to go 2 rounds. We're just going to try for 5. Excellent. And then after your 5, lower the hips down. Take a moment, pause, and breathe. All right, if you survived that, you're surely going to survive the rest of this bridge series. All right, no disc here. And we're going to come up and work with a leg lift, heel lift. So remember the sequence from the previous weeks. We'll try lifting just the heel, then lifting the ball of the foot, and then extending the leg. So Lainey's ready in bridge pose. Before Lainey lifts her leg, though, really reconfirm pelvic core is engaged, hips feel level, and legs are engaging against the ball. Root into your right foot now and barely lift your left heel. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the nose. We're going 5 breaths. Focus on breathing into your rib cage rather than into your belly. And then after those 5 breaths, Lainey's going to flex her foot up off the floor. So now lift the leg or lift the foot. Keep your thighs parallel though. So keep the legs engaging. Really push into the base leg. And then after those 5 breaths, she's going to go right into extension. You can join her now. Flex your foot and imagine again almost an internal rotation. Press heavy into the base leg to help keep the floating hip lifted and neutral. Nice. After those 5 breaths, slowly bring the leg down and then slowly bring the hips down. Give yourself a breath. Nice job. Little knees into the chest is okay. And let's set up for the opposite side. So neutral pelvis. Exhale, lift into a nice little micro bridge. Grounding in now to the left leg, left foot. Let's lift the right heel. 5 breaths. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling. Keep the hips level. Really press into the base leg. So now when you're ready, flex the foot up off the floor. Really press into the base leg so that the floating leg's thigh is not too high. Inhale through the nose and exhale. And after those 5 breaths, extend the leg out. Engage the ball between both of the legs a little bit more. Pull back on the toes. We're going 5 breaths here. And then slowly bringing the leg down, slowly bringing the hips down. Nice job. You can do a little knee hug. And now think about which side needs that 2-to-1 ratio. Hopefully here at week 8, you're finding that there's a smaller and smaller gap between your right and left side. You're feeling more and more balanced. All right, so when Lainey's ready, she's going to bring it up. Ground into your feet, big toes especially, and then lift the heel. So Lainey's lifting her left heel. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling. You can stay with the heel lift the entire time if that's more effective for you. And so when Lainey's ready, she's going to lift the foot. Perfect. Just a nice low hover. And then after her 5 breaths here, she's going to extend the leg. So we're doing 5 breaths, 5 breaths, 5 breaths. And so here we're at that leg extension. Keep the thighs engaging, especially the floating hip. Imagine that floating hip pushing up just a little bit higher. Great work. Excellent. Coming in and out of the movement is part of the movement. Drop the hips down. And why don't we remove the ball and drop into a little reclined bound angle? Just relaxing, open the hips. Take a couple good breaths here. Try to let go of any and all tension. Great. Use your hands to guide the knees together. And then when you're ready, let's roll onto our side for a nice little oblique series. So Lainey's going to set herself up. As a reminder, remember you can stagger the legs. If you're feeling more effective in the obliques at this point, you can also stack the legs. If you're finding the legs are flying up off the floor, you're not ready for that, and I want you to go back into the staggered position so we can keep the load in the oblique rather than in the hip flexors or the legs. All right, so we're going to first just start just with the upper body. We're doing 5 lifts and lowers, and then we're going to do the opposite side, and then we're going to incorporate the legs as well. So inhale to prepare. Exhale, just pull the elbow out from under you. Inhale, float up a few inches. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower down. Exhale, hold. Relax that top shoulder. Inhale, lift. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower. Exhale, hold. We're on 3. Here we go. Inhale, lift. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lift. You're doing great. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower. Exhale, hold. Last one. Inhale, lift. Relax that shoulder. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower. And exhale, release it out. Nice job. Take a breath for yourself. Stretch it out. Great. Now Lainey's going to flip over, face the opposite direction for you. And now make sure again the ball is on that fleshy space between the hip and the rib so that you have ample support. Where people go wrong is they try to tuck it under the hip bone, and that's too low. All right, shoulders are relaxed. Remember, we're never pressing with the hand. The neck feels long on all sides. Awesome. So we're going to have Lainey stagger her legs even more. Awesome. Stay grounded through the hip. Inhale, hold here. Exhale, pull the elbow back. Inhale, float up a few inches. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower down. Exhale, hold. Nice work. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, hold. And lower down. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lift. Hold. Exhale, hold. Nice. So 2 more. Keep breathing. Moving on the inhales. Holding on the exhales. Last one. And then down slow. Nice. 2-to-1 ratio. So which side needs that extra work? Are you staying on this side? Okay. Lainey's going to stay on this side. So remember again, you can cut down the reps on that second side or that second time. So Lainey's going to go for 5. Encourage you. But remember, only using the right muscles. We should feel no hip pulling in the hip flexor and no pressing with the head. Inhale to prepare. Lift the elbow. Exhale. Inhale, float up. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower down. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lift 2. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower down. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lift 3. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower down. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lift 4. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower down. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lift 5. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower down. And exhale, stretch it out. Excellent job. So really feeling that nice space. Focus on breathing into your top side body. Great work. All right, so we're going to flip back over to your first side, and we're going to incorporate now the oblique lift in combination with the leg. We'll try for 10, but as always, you can always cut down the reps and try for 3, 5, or 7. Really important when you incorporate the leg to keep the hips stacked. Where people go wrong is they let the hip roll back because they focus too much on the leg height and not enough on engaging the sideline of the body. Excellent. So in lifting the torso, remember, we're not pressing the head. We're going to flip the breath though, and I'm going to have you lift on the exhale, okay? So that we can just work the body in a slightly different manner. Deep breath in, just lift the arm, elbow out. There we go, exhale. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, lift it up. Nice. Inhale, lower it down. Exhale, lift it up. Inhale, lower it down. So watch not to lean forward. Exhale and inhale. Good. Exhale and inhale. This is not easy. Exhale and inhale. Lainey's doing a great job. Keep an open neck. Exhale and inhale. 5 more. Here we go. 5. Remember not to push. 4. She's not going very high. 3. Keep the sideline of the body. 2. And last one. Nice job. That's a hard one, isn't it? Stretch it out. Again, lots of space here. And then flip it over to the opposite side. We're almost there. And remember, you can just lift the bottom leg or just lift the torso. Create a variation that works for you and that you feel effective with. If modification makes you feel that somehow you're less than, think about it as a variation or an alternative. But I want to stress the importance of staying in the right areas of the body, that being the oblique and also the sideline of the hip. If you're feeling hip flex or you're feeling neck pain, it's a good cue that your body is saying something is not right. Please listen to that cueing. All right, we're lifting 10 rounds on the exhale. So let's just inhale, prepare it. Pull the elbow out. Exhale, lift it up with a flexed foot. Good. Inhale, lower down. Exhale, lift it up. Inhale, lower down. Lady's doing a great job. Exhale, lift. And inhale, lower. Good. Exhale, lift. And inhale, lower. Keep going. Exhale. 5 more. Here we go. 5. Remember not to push the head. 4. You're lifting because of your oblique. 3. Nice work. 2. Last one. And 1. Drop it down. Stretch it out. So again, lots of space here. Focus on breathing into your side lung, breathing into your side hip, stretching through your top foot. All right, which was that weaker side? We're going back to that side. I know you have it in you. Remember, cut the reps at the point you start to feel like you're losing the right muscles from activating. All right, inhale, prepare, pull the elbow out. Exhale, lift it up. Inhale, lower down. Nice. Exhale and inhale. Exhale, this is 3 and down. Here we go, 4 and down, 5. Now 5 more. Watch that the body doesn't close forward. Good. 4 more. Keep with your breath. 3, soft top shoulder, soft jaw. 2, you can do it. 1 more. Last one. Excellent job. Stretch it out. I knew you had it in you. Great work. Bring yourself up. And just stretch back into a little devotional here. Give your back body a nice little stretch out. Excellent. Just feels nice to get the back body open. And then slowly bringing yourself up. We are going to come now into a prone position, so laying on your belly. So I'll have Lainey come forward just a little bit here. Perfect. Ball's going to go under your chest. So as a reminder, that ball kind of goes for women underneath the bust line. And I always think of this as like the perfect supported TV watching position or reading a book on the floor. Normally the small of the back and the lower ribs kind of feel pressure. This kind of lifts you up. Perfect. Staying rooted through your legs. Pubis bone is rooted down. Now if you're struggling rooting the pubis bone, set a small hand towel underneath the hip bones to help create a slightly more of an angle, and that will help you get out of your lower back. So there's always options. All right, eye line towards the floor, back of the neck is long. Lainey's going to lift her arms up into a nice cactus. Great. Remembering we're not pulling back with the elbows, but we're lifting up with the arms. So nice deep breath in. Exhale, bring it up with your torso, engage, and then inhale, slowly lower down. Exhale, pull it up and engage back. Inhale, lower down. Nice, so 8 more. Now as Lainey does this, she's making sure she's rooted through her pubis bone and her legs are active into the floor. One thing people notice is that flipping the breath with the exhale, especially with the ball, takes a little bit of mind-body awareness, and there's a learning curve to that, so just be patient. Exhaling though for ample core and back strength, and I can really feel her erectors, which are the muscles along each side of the spine that kind of look like railroad ties, are really working here right now, and that's what we want. Nice. She's not pulling back with the head, assuming that that is an extension here. Nice. She's doing a great job. A great way to develop more upper back strength if you are more kyphotic, which most of us are. Nice job. And after that last one, Lainey's going to lift and stay lifted, and she's going to pulse the arms 10 times. Here she goes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Drop it down. Take a breath. Excellent. And then just lift the ball out from underneath your chest, and we'll stick that guy between your thighs. Excellent. So just to help staying rooted with her legs a little bit more, we're going to work with a lift now, but we're going to work in a prone position. So our arms are going to be out back by her hips, palms face in. rolling the shoulders open. So we're trying to keep that chest as minimally kyphotic as possible. So let's just lift up, exhale, and we're going to keep the legs down, and we're going to lift just the torso. So exhale, pulling up and back, and then inhale, lowering down slow. Nice. Exhale, lifting up and back, and then inhale, lowering down slow. Nice job. So when Lainey lifts, really focusing on getting the shoulders to roll open. So again, it's not just the arm with the shoulder diving down, but we're truly trying to open up that tight kyphosis. Nice. She's doing a great job of staying rooted in her legs. And I can notice here that she definitely is stronger on one side. There we go. Now she's working a little bit more even. So paying attention, does one side kind of lead you and pick you up? So together, let's just do 3 more. Nice work. Again, roll the shoulders open, reach back through the fingertips. Great. Nice. And just for fun, let's come up and stay lifted here. And now lift the legs up as well. Awesome. So the ball will kind of tame your legs so they don't roll internally or externally. They stay parallel. Let's just try to hold here. 5, 4. Think about the back body. 3, 2, and 1. Drop it down. Now sit back onto your heels. Give yourself a nice stretch back. Excellent. And just take a moment here. Reach the arms right and left. Kind of give yourself a nice little side stretch. All right, so when you're ready, we're going to come back onto our spine, or laying back supine. Home stretch, and then laying all the way onto your back when you're ready. Ball will go underneath the sacrum. Perfect. And we're going to work with a double leg press. So for here, I'm actually going to have Lainey bring a ball between her knees, and an additional ball. Let me go grab one here. Between her ankles. Now, if you don't have 3 inflatable balls, you can also use foam yoga blocks, or don't use any blocks at all and just bring the legs all the way together. So we'll work with a double leg press, keeping the shoulders relaxed and the pelvis in neutral. Inhaling, when you're ready, you're going to press out to a 45 or a 90-degree angle. Exhaling, bringing it back to center. Nice work. Keeping the core strong. If you're getting that rectus pufus, that popping out of the abdominals, change the angle and press more towards a 90 degrees. The balls between the legs are reminding her to stay engaged. Nice. Let's try 2 more for 5. So pressing out. This is much more challenging for the back muscles as well, so please work with the angle appropriately. Yay! I'll take those balls for you. Drop the feet down, take a moment and breathe. If you need to, readjust the ball underneath the sacrum. And we'll move into our frog and butterfly series. So we'll start out with 10 butterflies, and then we'll move into that butterfly-frog combination. All right, so heels stay together for this one. Inhale, open the knees, and then exhale, engage the thighs towards each other. Nice. Inhale, open, and exhale. If this feels a little too easy for you, change your arm angle. Nice. Imagine there's an orange between the knees and you're squeezing that orange's juice every single time you bring the legs together. Nice. Inhale, opening, and exhale, engaging. Great. Inhale, opening, and exhale, engaging. And then once you've hit that 10, pause in tabletop if you can with Lainey. Work with your breath. Great. Almost there. Excellent. All right, so now we're going to work that butterfly-frog combination. So it'll be inhale, butterfly. Exhale, press parallel into frog. Inhale, pull open into butterfly. Exhale, press it out into frog. What I want you to pay attention to is not bringing the knees any closer than that 90 degrees, because for many people, they don't have the stability of the lower back yet in order to really keep that neutral, and that's the most important thing. So inhaling when you open, feet are flexed. Exhale, press the legs parallel and squeeze and engage the inner thighs. I don't often use the word squeeze, but for the inner thighs, that will work well. If you're starting to fatigue, change the angle of your legs. It does not have to be all or nothing. Awesome. Soft on the shoulders, really drop the upper chest. And then slowly lower your legs down. Great work. Give yourself a good stretch out, and then we're going to roll onto our belly again for one more round of the prone series, focusing on our legs, and that's it. Awesome. So Lainey's going to flip herself over, and this is the one where we're going to be placing the ball between the ankles. So if it's easier for you to start from a tabletop, placing the ball like Lainey's doing right now, or if you have a partner like me, I'll gladly come over and help set that ball up. All right, so she's going to lay all the way onto her belly. Maybe scooch a little bit more forward if that's okay with you. Excellent. Remember, when the ball starts rolling between the ankles, it's usually a sign that you have a more dominant leg. Back off with the dominant leg so the weaker side can kind of bring itself up to par, rather than trying to make the weaker side always kind of trail behind. So minimizing that rolling with the ball, engage the legs, root your pubis bone. Remember, the leg is moving, not the pelvis, so keep the pelvis nice and stable. Relaxing your shoulders, but keeping the rib cage slightly drawn up and in. We'll lift 10 times. So inhale to prepare, exhale, lift, engage on the ball. Inhale, lower down, either touch or hover. So when Lainey's lifting, she's really focusing on moving out of her hip socket, not lifting from the knee joint. Exhale, lifting, and inhale, lowering. Envision as though your toes are pointing straight back rather than curling in towards the ball. Exhaling. And inhaling, really work this side here. Exhaling, there we go, yep. And inhaling. If you're a runner, if you're an athlete, tend to have a dominant side, really tune into that. Having better power in the glutes and hamstrings is a great attribute if you are a runner or a biker or do anything that involves your legs, which we all do. Nice. So after your 10th one, you're going to lift and hold and stay lifted. And let's just engage on the ball 10 times. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Stay lifted. Now bend your knees and flex your feet. Raise the roof. Exhale, press the legs up. And inhale, lower down. Keep your hip bones from rooting into the floor. So try to anchor your pubis bone. The hip bones are probably going to touch, but they should not feel like they're just dominating into the mat. Nice. Lainey's doing a great job of keeping an engagement on the ball and try and keep that ball under control. I know if I was doing it, my ball would probably be all over the place. Exhale, pressing up, and inhale, lowering down. She's doing a great job of trying not to let her knees flare out so that she overuses the upper medius and minimus of the glute. I want you to stay in the gluteus maximus, the lower glute, in combination with the pelvic floor. The two are a team. Good. Relax your upper body. And keep the heels. I'm just going to kind of play. Keep the heels. Keep the ball. Keep the heels almost like it's connected from your heel to your backside. So when the hamstrings are weak, the ball ends up dropping towards the floor with the feet. All right. Now one more. Now stay lifted. You're going to pulse 10 times to the ceiling. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Lower down. I'll take the ball for you. Step back onto your heels, give yourself a nice little stretch. And again, you can stretch side to side with your arms and your torso to kind of open up each side of the lower back if necessary. Really focus on breathing into the lower back, relaxing your shoulders. Offer yourself some gratitude for a job well done today. And remember, this is a progressive series, really focusing on using the deep core muscles. So when we start to work from the inside out, we really have to ask ourselves to start to use the muscles that we have not been using for a long, long time. So for this week, our week 8, I want you to focus on working with this video series 3 to 5 times through the week. And if you feel like you'd like to mix it up, grab one of the previous weeks and throw that into the mix as well. Do what you can and listen to your body, and no matter what, you'll always be successful. From my heart to yours, from my soul to yours, enjoy this week. Namaste.